Alright, we got a Civic here. Evidently there's a problem with the key not turning. So I got the key here. Let's check it out. See what it's doing. Oh yeah, it won't turn at all. Now sometimes if this is locked, that can cause the key to not turn, but as you can see it's not locked. Yep, it looks like it's going to need a new steering lock assembly, which it's the whole assembly in there you got to replace. Sometimes if you wiggle it, you can get it to work. In this case, hopefully, usually if you keep wiggling it, maybe spray some WD-40 in there or some kind of lubricant, you can usually get it to work eventually. But in this case, as you see, it's going to have to be replaced. Hopefully I can get it started so I can get it into the garage. In any event, I guess I'll get the parts and we'll see if we can't get this thing fixed. Now, while I'm thinking of it, if you find yourself in this situation, you might try flipping the key around. If you have a second key, which this owner does not have a second key, so if you have a second key, you could try that, because most likely it's the tumblers in here that are bad. At least that's what it looks like to me. So if you pull the key in and out just a little bit, wiggle it up and down, switch the key around, use a second key, all those can maybe help you get it started. And, you know, turn the steering wheel a little bit sometimes. But as you can see, this thing, yeah, it's definitely dead in the water. Not going to go anywhere until I can get this thing to turn. If I can get it to turn. Alright, so as you can see, I got the key to work. And I'll show you my trick though of how I was able to do it. I wiggled and wiggled and jiggled and messed with it, and I could not get this key to work. So what I did, I went and grabbed another Honda key that was very similar. Even though it's not the correct key, it's similar enough. I just put it in there a couple times and pulled it out. Then I put the real key back in and then it worked. So you may want to use that trick if you're having trouble getting yours started. Alright, we got the part in. We're going to go with a brand new steering lock assembly from Honda. There's the part number for this application. Let's go get that old one off. Alright, first thing we're going to do, take a 10mm socket. We're going to loosen up the negative battery cable and take it off and get it out of the way. Now the reason I disconnected this battery is because I'm going to be working right in front of the steering wheel, which has an airbag in it. I don't want that airbag to accidentally deploy when I'm in there hammering and beating on stuff. So we disconnect this to be safe. Now, even though this is disconnected, the SRS module has an internal power source that can fire these airbags even with the battery disconnected. So we need to wait 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, that power will be dissipated inside that SRS unit, and then we can work. So 3 minutes. Oh, I don't have my watch. We'll wait 3 minutes and then we'll go to work. Alright, now that we've waited 3 minutes, now we're going to go ahead and take off this lower piece right here. In order to do that, you got to make sure this steering wheel is all the way up, out of the way. Then we can turn these two, come on, and pull it off, just like that. Now we need to get, let's see, we got one screw right here, we got one screw right here, and one screw right here. Very common on most of these Hondas. You're going to have 3 screws on this cover, and then the cover is split in 2 pieces, this lower half and this upper half. So we'll get the 3 screws out and then pop these 2 pieces apart. Now when you're taking these screws out, use a good screwdriver. These things can be in there tight sometimes. You don't want to strip out the heads. Usually there's 2 wood type screws or plastic screws that go into plastic. And then there's a machine screw, usually in the back here. There it is. And then we can lower the the handle for the telescoping, or the tilt I should say. And then we can usually snap these two off. Pretty easy. This thing's probably been taken apart before. Pop the bottom cover off, and then we can take the top half off. Now we got our unit exposed. Alright, now looking right down on top here, we got several connectors we need to disconnect. Let's see, we'll disconnect this one, and this one for now. We should be able to just press the little buttons in and pull it out. I don't know if I can do it with the camera right here in my face, but we'll disconnect these three and then we can see down below. Alright, I got them all disconnected, and we'll just get them up out of the way here, or down out of the way. Alright, now with those plugs out of the way, you can get a better look at the shear bolts. One right here, one right there. We're going to have to spin them out, or we can drill them out. I like to try to get a little bite on the edge, you know, and hammer it and see if I can't spin them out. Usually they don't rust in here, and you can't really over torque them because they break off. So usually you can spin these bolts out without having to drill them, because when you drill them you make a mess with the shavings everywhere. So we'll see if we can't knock them loose first. While we're here, we can disconnect these other plugs. Just like that, both of them are spinning out. Now we just got to get them out. There's one. There's the second one. You can see you can do it fairly quickly. There's the top plate. There's your assembly, just like that. Obviously it goes in just like that. Alright, here's the setup I used to get them out. Safety glasses. A little 8-ounce hammer. And then this little chisel right here. If you can read the model number there. That's what I was using. Just a small one. And as you saw, I was just catching, you just catch the edges of these bolts just like that and just hammer them and just kind of spin them out. They usually will come right out. You can see it comes with a couple of new keys keyed to this lock cylinder. Vehicle's going to have 2 different keys now, unfortunately. And comes with the unit itself. And this one comes complete with the Immobilizer unit and everything in between. So on this, if you get it from Honda, you get everything. If you get an aftermarket one, some of them don't come with the Immobilizer unit. You'll have to take these screws out and put this on the new one. Even with using the same the existing Immobilizer, you still have to reprogram those keys. And of course, you want to make sure your part is exact like this. In this case, it looks like this little plastic cover just snaps on over this. Let's see, how's it go? Just like that. And the factory unit comes with a new bracket and 2 new shear bolts. So you can see, compared to what the old ones look like, that's what happens. It just shears off right there in the middle. That's why you can't over torque these. And of course, there's our 2 new Honda keys for the ignition. Now these are only going to work in there, in the ignition. We're going to need the existing key to continue to work the locks on the rest of the vehicle, because Honda doesn't make the kit anymore where we can replace all the locks at once. Now we want to make sure this little plunger right here for this ignition lock solenoid mates up with the little slot in the bottom of the steering column. So when we put it on there, we got to just make sure that that finds its way home. And while I'm thinking of it, it's not a bad idea. Look at this plug right here. Make sure this Immobilizer is plugged all the way back in. Alright, now we're going to take our steering lock assembly, the bracket, and the 2 bolts, bring it over to the car, and we'll put it back on. Now right there, that's the slot I was referring to in the steering column here. We got to make sure our lock assembly mates up with that properly. And you'll feel when it's home, it won't move. Alright, now you saw I got it as tight as I could by hand. You can just wiggle it a little bit and push the steering wheel all the way down. And I'm going to use an 8mm 1/4 inch socket, and this is a wobble extension, about a 4 inch. That way I can get in there and there's a little bit of play And we'll just tighten these up evenly. We'll push up on the bottom here. And there, you can see it's nice and snug now. Now I can't move it at all. Let's put the key in here and make sure it works. Alright, that key works. Alright, that key works. That would suck if you shear the bolts off and the key doesn't work. Alright, now that I know the key works, I'm going to go ahead and shear these bolts off. If you're not confident in what you're doing, you may want to leave it like this till you get everything programmed and put back together and verify everything works, and then you can shear them off. Remember, nice and even, back and forth. There's the first one. There's the second one. So if you did it right, you should shear them off about the same time. Alright, and as you can see, that's what they look like when they shear off. And there's the other end. Alright, now we'll just get everything plugged back in where they belong. See if we can't get this thing running. Make sure everything's plugged back in. Alright, we'll just take our lower cover, get it past the handle right here, get it up into position, and we got to pull it over that, and we'll get our top piece in place and we'll snap that in. Alright, after we get the two plastic covers back in, we'll lift the steering wheel all the way up and lock it in place. Now we'll get the screws. Get these screws back in. Alright, we'll slide this plastic cover back into place. Alright, we'll reconnect our battery. Alright, one thing we want to make sure, you want to make sure your steering wheel locks like that. And this one does. We'll take our key. Now, it's not going to start. You can see the immobilizer key flashing. You can see it's not going to start. We got to program this key. Alright, now we're going to take the scan tool over to the vehicle and we'll get the immobilizer programmed. We're going to have to run through it twice because we have a new immobilizer and new keys. Not real exciting stuff. It's just a series of turn the key on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, things like that. So let's get over to the vehicle and get this thing done. Alright, now if you don't have a scan tool like this that'll program Honda Immobilizer keys, you're going to have to take it to a shop or the dealer where they can do it. So we're just going to go into the Immobilizer function. Alright, on the scan tool we're going to have to go in and tell the ECM that we have a new Immobilizer unit. If we took the old one off and put it on here, we could skip this. Now, is the immobilizer light off? Yes. Alright, let's see if it starts. Try the other key. Alright, both keys work. Alright, I scanned the system, and as you can see, the immobilizer shows no faults, so we're good to go there. To program these things, you're going to need some kind of scan tool. And I'm using an Autel MS906 to do this. Well, there you go. That's how I replace the steering lock assemblies on these Hondas. If you're going to replace the whole unit like I did, take the two screws out, keep the ignition switch, take the screws out of the immobilizer, and keep the immobilizer if yours came with one. If you do it this way, you're going to need two keys. That kind of sucks, but that's the only way to fix it, just buying parts. And if you do it this way, you have to program the immobilizer to the key, and the immobilizer has to be programmed to the car. That's why I had to do it twice. I'm sure I'll edit it so it's much faster, but I had to do the whole sequence twice in order to program both of them. Now, there is an option. You can take this whole assembly off just like this, and then take this to a locksmith, and they can take this lock cylinder apart and rebuild it for you. Usually, a good usually a good reputable locksmith will be able to take it apart and rebuild it. Now Honda doesn't recommend that. They recommend replacing it like I did, but that's an option. I want to say they're around between $200 and $300 here in my area. If you take it off and bring it to them, they'll take it out and rebuild it to your key, and then you can just have one key, and you don't have to reprogram anything. So that's an added benefit if you don't have a scan tool that can program. And hey, as always, if the video helped you out or you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.